Hey everyone, I hope you all are doing well. This time, instead of making a guide for the Manufacturers Cup, I would like to make a guide for the first round of the Nations Cup World Series 2025, which takes place at Road Atlanta with the Lamborghini Aventador SV. So we can also try to talk about the race information settings briefly, and because after that I would like to talk about the track, such as talking about the braking points, the driving line, and also why you have to be careful with in the end, such as not abusing your track limits in order not to receive a track limit in the end, or avoiding the grass on few corners in order to avoid having a loss of grip afterwards. Because after all of that, I would also like to showcase my fastest lap time I've done so far. And this way I also would like to showcase a way how you can try to finish your qualifying lap, let's say in a normal way, and not in a way which the other drivers from the leaderboard have been using so far, because unfortunately you can kinda abuse the last corner, like when you're about to finish your qualifying lap, a lot. Because I can try to explain it here briefly, so this way you can try to cut the inside a lot so that you can completely I don't I'm sorry, I don't want to say yeet your car but it's just you will just go off the track in a really fast way, so that you will just end up crashing into the wall. But unfortunately this is the fastest way in order to complete a lap around here. However, you cannot use that for the race, so because of that I tried to set a lap time which didn't really, well, I didn't use that method of finishing the qualifying lap like the other drivers did on the leaderboard. But on the same time, I still tried to set a lap time which you can use as a reference for the race as well. Because after that, I also would like to talk about the track limits, because at this circuit you can easily receive a track limit for pretty much everywhere or for almost every single corner out there, and some of them I felt like are a little bit random or like really weird and controversial, which I also would like to show here. And after going through the track limits on this track, I also would like to showcase a race simulation run. But here you can also see on the race information setting that the qualifying session itself will last for 18 minutes. So like on the previous Manufacturers Cup season we've had at Interlagos as well as at Sardinia before, this time here for the first round of the Nations Cup will also feature or include an 18-minute qualifying session. So you can also see that the tire wear multiplier as well as the fuel consumption multiplier has been set to ×1. And as we only have to use the sports medium tires, I can already guarantee you that you don't have to save fuel, but you also don't have to save your tires. I mean, maybe you have to save your tires a bit in order to avoid overheating them too much, especially the fronts. And this car being a 4-wheel drive car, but on the very same time, you can also see at the bottom of the screen there that there's no mandatory pit stop required. So because of that, I also won't be showing the pit entry and the pit exit, because it's not required for this race, like to go into the pits, making a pit stop, where you could change your tires or not. That would be up to you, obviously. But yeah, on the last thing I can also try to talk about is that the amount of laps is set to 15. So it's pretty much almost the same duration as the qualifying session itself, which you're also about to see on the race simulation run later on. But nevertheless, I'm sorry, but I will catch you guys later on when I would like to try and talk about the track. So welcome back. This time I would like to talk about the track itself, but by driving really slowly. So in order to start your qualifying lap, you should obviously try to use the area on the left hand side as much as you can, so that due to the lack of downforce of this car, that you can still try to carry as much speed as possible for the final corner there. So this way you can try to use the curb on the left hand side, which you were able to see here just briefly just a tiny bit. Here you can use the inside curb and even the grass a tiny bit in order to have like a better exit and thus a higher speed before starting your qualifying lap. And the breaking point for me personally for the first corner was actually the light shadow you are able to see here. Like you're able to see like a bright reflection of the sunlight here shown at the tarmac. And for me personally, I always use that as a breaking point going into turn 1. And once you want to go into turn 1 here, it's also really important to use the curb on the inside a lot and also to go on the throttle as soon as possible. But there's something you have to watch out for, because if you go to the right hand side here a bit too early, that gives you a track limit penalty. Yeah, which I will also try to showcase that later on. But for this corner here, you should also try not to brake too late, because if you try to brake too late, you will miss the apex of this corner here. But try to use the inside of that curb as much as you can. This left-hander, it's also really important not to turn too early, because if you turn too early, then you will just understeer for the exit of that corner and thus lose a lot of speed through this fast S section here. But it's also important to use the 4th gear before, and you can also use the grass just a tiny bit on the left hand side. Here it's also important to brake on the curb, and then also not to turn too early for that left-hander. And as for that curb on the right hand side, you can sort of abuse it, but you can also receive a track limit for that, which is a bit interesting. But I will also talk and showcase that later on. And then the braking point for the following right-hander is actually just around here, just before the white line. Well, it's like way before the white line. But then here it's also important to use the curb on the inside, but try to be patient on the throttle because it has a lot of power. It's also 4-wheel drive, so you can easily understeer at the exit there. Here it's important to shift down to 2nd, but then use the 3rd gear for the exit and just not really floor it, but you can use the throttle a lot earlier by using the 3rd gear. And then here it's like a nice long back straight where you can try to relax yourself for a bit. But as for the braking point into the following corner, you can see like like an escape route on the right hand side here, just before the Motul sign and the blue shell, if I can say that. I use that as a braking point all the time. And here you should also try to cut the inside cap a little bit, but not too much, because then you will also receive a track limit penalty for that. For the exit of the right-hander, use the 3rd gear, but try to be careful not to run a bit off the track too much, because you can easily understeer through there. And here, yeah, if you stay on the inside, you can maybe try to gain some time, but then you will lose a lot of speed for the exit here. But I think this is also up to you how you want to finish your qualifying lap. But now I would like to show you the fastest lap I've done so far, let's say legally-ish, but obviously you can still try and find some time everywhere, because the first sector can be improved. I think I also lost like around 600 or 700 in sector 2 on this lap. But yeah, please enjoy the fastest lap I've done so far, and then hopefully it also gives you like a reference how you should yeah, drive at the circuit. In this chapter I would like to talk about the track limits you can easily receive at the circuit, and the very first one, in my opinion at least, is a really controversial one. Because if you place your car on the right hand side as early as you can, you will receive a half a second time limit penalty for that. Which I don't really understand, but even here, which is another example of the turn 1, or let's say the exit of the turn 1 track limit, you're able to see here that I wasn't really going to the right hand side as early as I did before, but nevertheless I still receive a half a second time limit penalty for that, so please watch out for that one. As for the following right-hander or the blind right-hander, if you cut the inside curb there a bit too much, then you will receive a 1 second time limit penalty for that. So please watch out for that one. And even if you don't cut it as much as I did it on the previous example, you can still receive a 1 second time limit penalty for that. And it's a bit interesting because on the few time trial attempts I've had through there, I did the exact same line, but I didn't receive a track limit penalty afterwards. But in this example here, which is also really interesting, if you use the grass on the left hand side a bit before and then try to proceed cutting the inside curb there, you will only receive a half a second time limit penalty. So yeah, this is interesting. As for the next corner where you can also receive a track limit penalty is the exit of the final corner in sector 1. Because if you cut it a bit too much there, or like if you run a bit too much on the off track, then you will also receive a half a second time limit penalty through there. So yeah, I mean, for me personally, I can understand it if you run a bit too much wide through there, because in the end you were able to gain some time. But in this example here, I was trying to come back to the track as early, or like as soon as possible, but yet I still receive a half a second time limit penalty for that. And the reason I don't really seem to understand that is you can, like now I'm about to show you a chase cam example here. So here you can easily see that I run off the track, so normally I should receive a track limit penalty for that, and it's also perfectly fine. I mean, the disadvantage of doing so is that you would also have dirty tires and lose grip for the falling right-hander, but in this example here from Andrew Lee, you can also see that he ran off the track a bit too much there. Not as much as I did before, but he didn't receive a track limit penalty for that, which is interesting. But he's a really fast player, hehe. And the last one you can get a track limit penalty is the first corner in sector 3, because if you cut the inside curb there a bit too much, then you will also receive a 1 second time limit penalty. So please watch out for all of these corners. About the race simulation run for the first run of the Nations Cup for the World Series 2025, it's a pretty straightforward one, and there's also one thing I forgot to mention on the from the race information setting, which is that the slipstream being used for this race is set to realistic. So because of that, I'm not really quite sure how easily it is for all of the other drivers to follow the driver in front of them through this section especially, because this is like a mid to high speed, or rather high speed section here, and normally you would need all the downforce you have on your car in order to, yeah, easily maneuver your car through that section, right? But if you have somebody else in front of you, then obviously you will have dirty air, and you would not really be able to generate downforce on your car. I mean, luckily we're using a no, not race car, sorry. We're using a normal sports car in that sense. Like, yes, it's the Aventador SV. It has some aerodynamical parts on it, but it's not as extreme as a Group 3 car, for example. But nevertheless, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how overtaking might be done on the circuit. I would probably assume that the overtaking spot is only going to be possible at the end of the backstraight, because otherwise, yeah, you can maybe only do a dive bomb here, or if the driver in front of you did a mistake on the final corner, you can try to use turn 1 as an overtaking opportunity as well. But apart from that, I don't really see any other corners where you can try to overtake the driver in front of you. Because in the end, in my opinion, the most important important thing at the circuit is to have a really good consistency. Like, unfortunately, in this race simulation run, my consistency wasn't really the best. Because at the beginning I was doing like, like a high 20 lap time, or like even low 21s. But in my opinion, I should have run a little bit faster than that. Like on this lap here, for example, I think I've done a 20.7 on this lap. And towards the end of the race, I've even done a 20.5. And I think this is like the lap time the top drivers will be aiming for, like around the 20.5 mark. Because obviously, if you can continue to practice continuously, yes, then you will automatically improve on your racecraft and also on your consistency around the circuit here with this car. But I just wanted to showcase how the tire would also look like on the circuit with this car, because we're only using the tire multiplier ×1. As for the fuel consumption rate, it's also set to ×1, and you can also see at the bottom of the screen there that the fuel itself won't be an issue for this race, so you won't be needing to save fuel or go into the pits in order to refuel your car. But yeah, and as for the weather settings here, I've also used the settings which was shown on the GT Engines website, because I think the weather setting was set to S13. And in terms of the sun settings, it was also set to sunset. So these were the settings I was trying to run on my practice run here, or like race simulation run. But apart from that, it's a pretty straightforward race. So the advice I can try to give you for this race: watch out for the corners, because you can easily receive a track limit penalty for that. But you should also try to watch out for not using the grass all the time, even though I use it here. But if you use it ever so slightly, you should be fine. But in Sector 1, for example, if you use the grass on the fast S section a bit too much, then you won't be having grip for the following corners. And this will also lead you in having a huge loss of time in the end, which is not ideal, obviously, right? So because of that, please try to watch out for that. And also try to work on your consistency, because yes, I think the qualifying will be quite important for your race result, because I literally have no idea how easily it is to pass the driver in front of you with the realistic slipstream. So yeah, because of that, please watch out for those kind of factors. But apart from that, yeah, it's a pretty straightforward race, because you don't really need to save your tires. But personally, I still feel like if you try to save your fronts a bit throughout the race, that could turn out to be beneficial towards the end of the race, due to the tire temperature. Because of you turning less or like steering less, you can also try to save your tires a bit more, and also to keep your front tires temperature a bit lower. And this will also be beneficial for you towards the end of the race, in my opinion at least. And yeah, that's mainly it, because we are not able to use we are not allowed to use the brake balance setting as well, so it's completely stock in that sense. But yeah, so far it's a really interesting combo. But let's see. I mean, yeah, let's see how the races will be like on Wednesday. From my side, I would like to wish you all the best. And once again, I also apologize for the slight delay. For the guide I made for the first run of the Nations Cup this year. I mean, initially I intended to upload it yesterday, but yeah, there were so many few things which happened yesterday, and also for connection, I was like, okay, let's try to do it today instead. So hopefully you guys can watch it today still. I mean, luckily it's a pretty straightforward race, so as there's no strategy involved, I think everybody will have an easier time preparing themselves for the race. But as the car itself is completely different from what we are used to, such as using the Group 3 cars or even the Group 4 ones, I think this still takes some time to get used to the Lamborghini at least. But yeah, that's mainly it from my side. I would like to wish you all the best. Hopefully all of you will have a good race in the end, and I also would like to wish you a nice day and also really good start into the week. And hopefully I'll be able to see you guys on the next one. And once again, I really would like to thank you all for your support, which has been really amazing to see, and I'm really grateful for that. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to make some content for you guys in the future. So yeah, from my side, have a good day everyone, and stay safe. See ya!